Strategy, the company that holds 640,000 Bitcoin worth more than $66 billion, is starting to run into problems. I'm going to talk about a pretty worrying indicator around Strategy and what it could mean for BTC. We'll also cover a lot of other stuff today. I'm going to talk about Zcash because what's happening there is just wild. A company is accumulating Zcash tokens led by people who used to be hardcore BTC only fans, or maybe they're still Bitcoin fans, but they're adding Zcash on top. We also talk about the merger between Aerodrome and Velodrome and the new things coming from those two projects. Hyperliquid seems to have taken a hit as well. By whom, why, what happened? There's a loss on Hyperliquid, the HLP Vault, and I walk you through it. And we'll talk about the 16 blockchains that can actually freeze your funds that come from a report by Bybit. So yeah, lots to go through today. Let's start with crypto prices. BTC is at $100,000 and $3,000, down 1.8%. Ethereum at $3,500. XRP is up 3% today. And look what's happening for XRP. It should be today that the first US spot XRP ETF launches. This one has been very, very anticipated. I've already mentioned it over the last few days, but now it's confirmed. It should go live today. So finally, a real spot XRP ETF. Until now, there were no true spot ETFs. They were just hybrid products with high fees. Now we finally get the real thing. Now, let's talk about Zcash. Honestly, what's happening with Zcash right now is crazy. The Winklevoss twins are involved. You know the Winklevoss brothers, the one who accused Zuckerberg of stealing their idea for Facebook. There's a whole movie about that story, the social network. They moved into crypto years ago, bought BTC very early, founded the Gemini exchange, and now they're crypto billionaires. Well, they're still very much into Bitcoin, but on top of that, they just announced the launch of a company called Cypherpunk. This used to be a company called Something Therapeutics, which is now being renamed to Cypherpunk, and now its new purpose is to accumulate Zcash. Accumulate a lot of Zcash. Their target is to accumulate 5% of all Zcash in circulation. It's exactly the same target Bitmain announced for Ether. They want to own 5% of all ETH. The Winklevoss-led entity has already bought around 200,000 Zcash tokens, ZEC, for a total of about $50 million at an average price of $245, so well below the current Zcash price of around $500. So they got in before, or right at the very beginning of the explosive move of the Zcash token. Zcash has a maximum supply of 21 million tokens, exactly like BTC, with the same kind of halving mechanism every 4 years. They literally copied that from Bitcoin. The tech behind Zcash is incredible. They were pioneers using zero-knowledge technology 10 years ago, and privacy, using the zero-knowledge technology to protect the privacy of the transaction on the network. The project was founded by real pioneers in the space like Zuko, and also the founder of Starknet is involved. So from a technical perspective, it's a solid project. Now there's a lot of buzz around it, and it's kind of surreal to watch. I've already talked about it before, but seeing former, let's say, Bitcoin maximalists starting piling into Zcash is something else. This is a bit of the thesis around Zcash right now, that it could be a sort of a new Bitcoin, an encrypted Bitcoin with the same scarcity properties plus privacy. I'm not here to tell you to run out and buy Zcash tokens. That's not the point, but I wanted to talk about it because it's really impressive what's been happening these last few weeks, these last few months even. So yeah, be careful. Don't just get swept away by the hype. The buzz is absolutely massive right now. I'm giving you all the info so you have as many keys as possible to decide whether you want to invest or not. Now, Bitcoin and Strategy. Strategy is the company that used to be called MicroStrategy. They hold 641,000 BTC. Their goal is to accumulate as much BTC as possible and keep raising money to buy more BTC. They issue shares, they take on debt, they do all kinds of financial engineering to buy more Bitcoin and pay back later when the price of BTC is a lot more. There's one indicator that's very often used to value companies like this, the MNAV. They call it MNAV, like I said, which is basically measures the ratio between the company's market cap and the value of the Bitcoin it holds. Yesterday they had $65 billion worth of BTC, but the market cap was $64 billion. So they actually dropped into negative MNAV territory. The MNAV is even now 0.98, in other words, below 1. That's a problem because it means MicroStrategy or strategy can no longer really issue new shares to buy more BTC. The market is valuing the company below the value of its Bitcoin. So they have to use other mechanisms. That's why a few days ago, I talked about it, the $700 million they raised in Europe is to be able to buy more BTC, but also to be able to pay down their debt. They've launched a whole set of exotic products with dividends that have to be paid every month in some cases. Where does that money come from? It has to come from money either they raise or they sell Bitcoin to do it. They have not sold Bitcoin yet, so it's only money they raise. And what is worrying me is that they might stop accumulating, of course. If they stop buying, honestly, that's not the end of the world. They can just sit tight, BTC goes up, their market cap goes up, as long as it keeps tracking BTC price. What worries me more is the shareholders. The shareholders can, at some point, get fed up with this situation, especially if the MNAV drops hard. If MNAV drops down to 0.8 or 0.7, people will start saying, wait a second, this is not normal. We own a stock that is worth less than the actual value of the crypto held by the company. We need to do something. And if that happened, we could see activist shareholders come in and force strategy to sell BTC to unlock value. That's a realistic scenario. Michael Saylor does not have a majority voting rights in the company, not anymore. So that's important to understand. In theory, something like that could happen. It's not the most likely scenario, but it's possible. And if that happened, imagine that little by little, they'll start selling the BTC owned by strategy. That would be pretty worrying. I personally think things will stabilize. BTC price should go up, and this will probably normalize again. The market cap will go back to trading at a premium or a small premium. I think long term it should be fine, but you really have to keep this what if scenario in mind. I also saw a post from someone, Gregory Raymond, mentioning that the first big repayment for strategy has to make its coming due. It's not coming due until several years. So we have until 2028, 2029. So they have time to pay their debt. However, the dividends they own on these products have to be paid regularly, and that requires cash. So we'll see what they'll do with the 700 million just raised. Are they going to buy more BTC, or will they keep it as a cash buffer to pay all the dividends owned to investors in these exotic products? We're starting to see the limits of this model. In the past, I've already seen this kind of things happen. Products with a huge MNAV premium compared to the actual underlying value, like we had with GBTC. You know, before the spot BTC in the US, the spot ETFs in the US, we had this GBTC premium back in November. Just let's go back to strategy. Back in November 2024, their market cap was $86 billion, while they hold only $30 billion worth of BTC. And for other products, like I said before, if you go back like many years ago, there was Grayscale GBTC. It had a massive premium, and then it flipped into a discount down 20-30% below NAV. So yeah, that kind of discount can absolutely happen even with BTC exposure, because at the end of the day, if shareholders don't have a simple way to redeem their shares directly into BTC, the market can price it at a discount. Let's hope it doesn't get that bad for strategy, but I wanted to show you what's going on. If you look at strategy official website, they actually show an MNAV that's slightly positive, around 1.20%, 1.20, it's not a percentage. I compared the different sites, and depending on how they calculated the MNAV, you get either 0.98, 1 or 1.2. But either way, you can clearly see the trend is down. The premium is being squeezed and it's basically gone. That's it. That's what I wanted to tell you for strategy. But now there's a lot of stuff that happened in DeFi. I talked yesterday or the day before about Uniswap, which announced a proposal to enable the revenue sharing for the protocol. I also told you that there was a big announcement scheduled for Aerodrome yesterday, and that announcement has now happened. Aerodrome is the leading DEX on Base, the layer 2 blockchain built on Ethereum. It's ahead of Uniswap in trading volume on Base. Aerodrome announced two main things. They said they had a lot of announcements. It was like an Apple-style keynote, but here are the major points. Aerodrome and Velodrome, Velodrome being its equivalent on Optimism, are going to merge. The two exchanges will merge. Their token will. We will have one big DEX named Aero. They're also expanding the new two new networks, including Ethereum mainnet and the Circle's blockchain Arc. So basically, Aerodrome is going cross-chain, deploying on several blockchains, and they clearly want to grab market shares from Uniswap on Ethereum. They have the advantage of token they can use to incentivize liquidity, which helps them attract more liquidity providers. So now we're really in the battlefield between DEXs. There's a lot of competition in the DEX space. Aerodrome really wants to come to Ethereum and takes a market share and the huge TVL that exists on Ethereum. They also announced a bunch of other more technical things like the MetaDex operating system and OS for DEXs with new features. But the big changes are really Aerodrome goes live on Ethereum, Velodrome brand disappear, everything gets merged into a single Aero token without changing the tokenomics. The market share, however, did not like this announcement. Over 24 hours, the token dropped around 20%. If you zoom out over 7 days, though, it's still up. What happened is the classic buy the rumor, sell the news. People bought ahead of the announcement, expecting something huge. Then when the announcement actually happened, they sold, which explained the drop today. Next up, Hyperliquid. Hyperliquid is the leading decentralized exchange for perps. Even though in the last few days it's been overtaken by Lighter and Ethereum L2 that's preparing a bigger drop, Hyperliquid has paused deposits and withdrawals after a price manipulation on the token Popcat. Popcat is a meme coin. There was a lot of speculation around this meme coin yesterday. According to on-chain analysis, a trader basically pumped Popcat's price. He took 3 million from centralized exchange, split the money across 90 different wallets and went long on Popcat. At the same time, he built a big buy wall on spot market by placing a massive buy order for Popcat, which he then cancelled. This allowed him to manipulate the price. This triggered liquidation. In the end, the trader actually lost money on the move, but he also caused more loss for the Hyperliquid vault, the HLP vault. The HLP lost around $5 million. On the HLP vault performance chart, you can see over the 24 hours the loss. That said, for people who have found in HLP vault for a long time, they're still clearly in profit, especially thanks to the big jump in assets after the liquidation on October 10th. Well, overall, it's just a 1% loss on the HLP vault. To me, we're seeing the limits of the Hyperliquid's model. When you have tokens with very low liquidity that are easy to manipulate, that can lead to losses for the HLP vault. And to be fair, when you deposit into that kind of vault, you have to understand the risk. Yes, the yield can be high, but the risk also. A worst case scenario for HLP would be price manipulation on a more liquid token, which could cause bigger loss. A few months ago, we saw something with the Jelly meme coin, where the potential loss would have been massive if Hyperliquid hadn't intervened. So be careful when you put money in crypto vault like this, especially if you're talking about large amounts. Really make sure you understand what you're doing, where you're putting your money, what the risks are, and where the yield comes from. Now, let's talk about the blockchain that can freeze your fund. This comes from a Bybit report. I went and pulled the original sources, the slide deck from Bybit, and they explained that several blockchains have the ability to freeze funds. Some can do it natively, other potentially doing some other chains. Chains like Chili's, BNB Chain, VChain, and a few others can freeze funds quite easily using a blacklist. An address is added to a blacklist and funds are effectively frozen. Freezing is usually only used in specific situations such as hacks, and it has been used several times before. Other blockchains have slightly different approach. It's not a public blacklist, but some internal mechanism controls by the devs or core team. The end result is the same. Funds can be frozen. Examples include Aptos, EOS, Linea, and others, Sui also, and others that technically have this ability. On the one hand, this can be useful because if there is a major hack, say BNB Chain, they can freeze the hacker's fund. On the other hand, it clearly shows the limits of decentralization on these networks. Imagine a chain like Aptos or another with a small validator set. If a government entity comes knocking and asks them to blacklist certain addresses or freeze funds, in theory, they're supposed to comply. Personally, that bothers me. That bothers me a lot. As a regular user, it can feel reassuring to know if there is a massive hack on Bybit chain, they have the ability to freeze the Solons fund, but it still means someone somewhere has that power. There are different types of blocking mechanism, but the end result is the same. Funds can be frozen. I'm showing you this so you are aware of which tokens or which chains have this kind of control built in. That's what I wanted to share today about the different crypto news of the day. I hope you enjoyed the content. If you did, don't hesitate to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow for more. Bye-bye.